Welcome back to Star or Shovelware, my name's Luke, and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at another couple of games which have been entered into this year's Game Development World Championship. Now if you've never heard of the GDWC, it's essentially a huge competition which runs annually that allows indie game developers from across the globe to promote the games and get some much needed recognition as they compete with other game developers for the top spot in the GDWC. Each submission can be entered into any of the available categories, which range from pro, hobby and fan favourites all the way up to the prestigious Game of the Year awards, with a ton of great prizes awarded to the winners. Now if you're a game developer wanting to showcase your game, or just an avid gamer looking to find your next hidden gem, then you'll find a link to the GDWC sign up page in the description box below. Today though I'm going to be highlighting two more great Nintendo Switch games which were entered into the competition this year, and just in case you were wondering, I haven't received any kind of sponsorship or payment for producing this video, but the publishers of the games did send me a key for them, so I want to say a quick thanks to them for doing so. With that said, let's take a look at our first game, which is called Magic Twins. Developed by Flying Beast Labs and published by Badland Publishing, Magic Twins is a two-player cooperative arcade puzzle game which follows the story of twin sisters Abra and Kadabra. After attempting to dye their clothes using a supposedly innocent ritual, the pair inadvertently cause Colormageddon, a cataclysmic event which opens up a bunch of dimensional rifts all over the place, allowing interdimensional colour elementals to invade the world, and so it now falls to them to repel the invaders and close the rifts to put a stop to Colormageddon. So I'll start by saying that Magic Twins is primarily designed with two players in mind, with each player controlling a sister situated at either side of the screen, but if you are playing the game alone then you're able to switch between each sister at the press of a button. Just know that if you're flying solo on this one that things do get pretty hectic as you get further into the game, and so you're going to have to be really on the ball as the game is much more challenging in single player due to the computer controlled AI being, shall we say, a little bit on the slow side. Now the game sees you working across an overworld map, entering into each portal and repelling the invading colour elementals that you find there. The basic premise sees the elementals spawning at the centre of the play area and slowly making their way towards the edges, and it's your job to stop them doing this while completing a series of challenges listed at the top of the screen. Now initially each elemental comes in one of four colours, those being red, blue, yellow or green, and in order to destroy them you have to switch your colour to match theirs using the D-pad before shooting a spell at them. Occasionally enemies drop coloured orbs which can be collected with a shot and get stored at the bottom of the screen, and after collecting 4 of these you can then activate a special ability which will change the colour of all on-screen enemies based on the colour of the orbs that were used in the spell. So for instance a combination of green and yellow will result in enemies becoming a random mixture of the two, while using all red orbs will change all on-screen enemies to red. Now things do get a little bit more complex as you work your way through the game, with new enemy varieties being introduced as well as the addition of white and black enemies, and each of these have a different strategy required to defeat them, which requires some good communication if you're playing in 2-player mode, and if you're playing alone then you'll frequently be required to switch back and forth between the sisters in order to keep up with the pace of the game and account for the AI's poor decision making. Now after playing Magic Twins for a few hours, I have to say that despite its simplicity, the game's actually pretty challenging, and I did really enjoy my time playing this one. Each level gives you a star rating based on how well you played and how many optional challenges you managed to complete, and in addition to the standard story mode, you'll also find an endless mode which records your high scores, so the game has a decent amount of replayability. All in all, I'd say that Magic Twins offers a solid puzzle experience which if you're a fan of the genre like I am, you'll no doubt enjoy, and the game's available for $12.99 on the US eShop and £11.69 on the UK eShop, which in my opinion is pretty reasonable for the content. So our second game today, Lost Words Beyond the Page, is a wonderful little puzzle platformer which comes to us from developer Sketchbook Games and publisher Modus Games, and it's a narrative driven adventure title whose story centres around a young girl called Izzy who, after losing someone dear to her, decides to work through her grief by writing a fantasy story. The game's plot was actually written by Rhianna Pratchett, daughter of the late great Terry Pratchett, and just like her father, she really does have a talent for the written word, so the game provides an emotionally charged adventure which you won't forget in a hurry. Now the game's narrative jumps between Izzy's diary entries, which reveal a little bit about her personal life, and the story that she's writing where her thoughts and feelings that she's struggling with internally come to life. Gameplay in the diary sections has you running and jumping across words and filling in blanks to form sentences, while the fantasy sections of the game see you collecting and using magical words to solve puzzles as you guide the story's protagonist through the beautifully atmospheric fantasy world of Astoria. To give an example of this, you could for instance put a broken statue back together using the word repair or destroy blocks with the word break, but one of the really cool things about the game is that the words that you decide to use guide the narrative in different ways, and this makes for plenty of replayability with the game. Now I have to say that I absolutely love the visual style and sound design in Lost Words. The notebook sections feature hand-drawn sketches of the things that Izzy talks about, while the fantasy sections have a kind of 2.5D watercolour look to them, and the whole game is set to a wonderful soundtrack featuring plenty of pianos and strings, which really does add a deep level of drama and emotion to the game. If you're looking for a casual puzzle platformer with an emotionally driven storyline and some unique gameplay mechanics, then I highly recommend checking this one out. The game's available on the UK Switch eShop for £11.99 or on the US eShop for $14.99. And so that about wraps up our second feature on the Game Development World Championship, and if you've missed the first one then you can find a link to it down in the description below. As always, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, let me know your thoughts and opinions on the two games featured in today's video in the comment section below, and if you haven't already done so then consider subscribing to the channel to stay up to date with all my latest reviews and content. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.